Hello, and welcome to Conversations with Nick Thompson. You may know me from Netflix Love is Blind, but on this podcast, we sit down with guests from all walks of life to hear their story, remove stigmas, and uncover what makes them tick. Our guest today, Linda Steele, is a really incredible human being, and her story is very relatable. I am so excited that she reached out to me on LinkedIn, actually asking if she could come on the show after listening to the podcast. Linda is a personal trainer. She's a wellness advisor, best-selling author of a book called Nerves of Steele, which is awesome play on her last name. And then she's also an international speaker. She is a very successful human, but she's also come from a place of growth. She is very open about how trauma from her younger years has impacted her life and her relationships and her personal situationships, as she calls them, with past partners. But what's really cool about Linda is her self-awareness. She has to not just overcome her trauma, but she has to learn to be comfortable living with it. And when she explains it very relatably, because all of us have come from some form of trauma, we've all been struggling, with our childhood in some way, through school, through family relations, through other relationships that we've had in our life. So we're all dealing with some form of trauma. And I really enjoy the way that Linda speaks about it and the way that she tells her story and how she is very aware of the role that she plays in other people's lives, like her 3 daughters and her clients that she works with on personal training and wellness. And I really am excited to have this conversation with her. I think you guys are going to enjoy it. You're going to learn a little bit about Linda. You're going to learn a little bit about her journey. And we're going to talk about all of the things that helped make her who she is today and the growth that she's had personally, where she started, how she got where she's going, and then, of course, where is she going? So without further ado, let's get right to it. This is Linda Steele, and I am excited to have her on this podcast episode. That's exactly right. And that's why one of the things that I share with people on my social, but like I do myself, is when I get ready to start my day. And when I say start my day, I start like my work day, whatever that's going to look like. I start by writing down 3 things I'm grateful for from yesterday. And like the gratitude thing, it really just sets the tone for the day. And even when something bad happens or the other shoe drops, you still have something to be grateful for. And I feel like people struggle with that a little bit. And I actually, by the time this comes out, I don't know, it'll probably be a couple of weeks, but like I'm releasing a 8 weeks journal that I wrote to help you like reconnect with yourself, because I've had to do that the last few months. Like I've had to do that. And I think when you take the time to connect with yourself and do that, you can operate in the way you're suggesting here as the best way to do it.
I love that. I love that you do, 3 positive things from yesterday. I do that with my kids periodically. I'll just shoot them a random morning text and I'll tell them, give me 1 win from yesterday. 1 win.
I love that. How many kids do you have?
I have 3 daughters.
Okay. Very cool. Very cool. What are their ages?
I have twins who are going to be 28 next month.
Okay.
And then I have a 25-year-old.
Very cool. Very cool. That's an awesome thing to do. I'm going to actually start texting my friends that, I think.
Do that.
Yeah.
They're going to love it. And it's just out of nowhere. And it's not every day. And it might not even be once a week, but it's just randomly. I'll tell them, give me 1 win from it. And they're like, this is so cool.
I'm going to actually do it right now. We're going to do this in real time. I've got a group chat. It's always shenanigans and stupid stuff. So I'm going to start this right now.
They're going to be like this guy with all the positivity.
They are. They're probably like going to roll their eyes and then do more shenanigans.
That's okay. Sometimes it's the shenanigans that,
all right.
keeps moving.
It's done. We'll check in shortly.
Oh, I can't wait.
So when did you get out of your house, which was your goal? And what did you do? What did your life look like? And how did you how did you go from there? Because that's such a it's such a task, right? It's like, okay, I'm out. Now what? Like
Yep.
that was the goal. Now what?
And I had a plan. I had a plan, and I had a plan over the next even my adult life in a number of different situations that I got myself into. I had a plan. I went into my counselor's office about sophomore, junior year, and I said, how many more credits do I need to graduate? I need to get out of here early. So, and they were like, damn, okay. So they sat down with my schedule, and I graduated high school early. I was out of the house by the time I was 17.
Good for you.
Yep. I had my first apartment. I actually was able to get in before I was 18, or just on my 18th birthday. Prior to that, I lived with somebody so that I could just get out, but I couldn't co-sign. My parents made it very clear, we're not co-signing for anything for you.
Right.
Glad you're getting out. Good for you, but you're going to do it on your own. You want to be on your own? Tough thing. You're going to be on your own. So I did. I got on my own.
Were they actually supportive? Because it sounds like they were a little like almost wanting you to fail.
No, you know what? My mother was supportive. She understood it was time for me to get out. My dad didn't really understand why, because my parents were divorced. So my dad didn't really understand the whole underlying reason, my underlying motivation.
Okay.
So, but he made it clear I could not live with him. And so I was literally on my own. So
why could you not live with him?
He just got married. He had my grandmother living with him, and my sister, who was a naughty teenager at the time.
Okay.
And he was just trying to keep her in school and off drugs. I mean, so it was just too much. It was too much to add another human.
Oh, I bet. Did you have a close relationship with your sister or your dad?
My father, very close. And I was such a daddy's girl. It was not even fun, but I only saw him on the weekends, and then like for a week here and there, during holidays and so forth. My sister, no, she bullied me. I felt bullied most of my life with her.
That's awful.
And so I did not feel very safe or secure with her at all. It was always very nervous with her all the time.
I bet.
Is she her objective?
Her what? I'm sorry?
I think that was her objective.
Okay.
To make me
That's
feel
awful.
Yeah. It was very uncomfortable. I did not like that.
Well, that's a projection too, because she was obviously struggling herself, and she wanted to make sure that, you felt that you felt poorly about yourself as well. Is she still in your life, or?
Nope.
No,
That was for the toxic situations that I had to get out of. Probably about 15 years ago.
I completely understand that. I'm
and
sorry.
It sucks too, because I being Italian, we're very close to family, blood, everything, and the whole bit. But the problem is, I had to really learn this one lesson in life, and that is, it's a harsh reality. But the reality is, just because they're family, it doesn't make them good. And I don't like that, but it just happens to be true.
That is so unfortunate, but so true. And I talk a lot, excuse me, I talk a lot about boundaries, because that's the greatest tool that I learned for my own well-being. And I hope that my family doesn't take this the wrong way, but I have said similar things before. I don't have family that I can't talk to, or that I don't want to talk to, or that are completely toxic to the point that, I have to remove them from my life. But I do have family where I need to have a boundary, because otherwise it disrupts my peace. And there's a lot of generational stuff, trauma, whatever you want to call it, in my family that I had to get out of it. I had to move to the city from the suburbs. I had to limit my exposure. I had to, and once I was able to do that, once I stopped going every weekend to see my family, once I stopped attending every family event, no matter what, my sense of calm grew. My sense of angst diminished. And that to me is how I can tell the difference for me is even when I'm around them now, sometimes I can feel myself getting in that high strung, mindset of reacting and not listening and all this stuff. And that is like detrimental to my well-being. So it's hard, right? Like I miss some of the good things, but at the same time, like I'm better version of myself, limiting exposure to people that make me feel that way. And you
Absolutely.
having to do that, as painful as it is, I'm sure has really drastically net improved your personal feelings.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, and I say this all the time. When we are children, we have boundaries. We know them because we know right from wrong. We feel it. We feel when something's wrong.
It's
We feel
intuitive.
it. But exactly, intuitive. But we can't count on adults or other people in our life to respect our boundaries. So over time, we just become conditioned to people overstepping them and treating us poorly.
Yes.
And at some point in life, you never know when it's going to be. It could be in your 20s, your 30s, your 40s, your 70s. Sometime at some point in your life, you finally find your voice. You finally put your foot down and go, that's enough. No
Yes.
more. I am not feeling this way anymore. And I love that I have clients who are in their 70s and they're just now finding their voice in some situations. They're just now
Yeah.
putting their foot down. And the only regret they have is they didn't do it sooner. They never have a regret about it.
Yeah.
But it takes so much courage. It's so scary to do it because you don't want to let go of the good stuff. You know, there's a lot of good that comes with some of these
Yeah.
bad people or people who make you feel bad.
Well, and you're exactly right. And I love the way that you tell that, because most people, and this is one thing that I have really, really learned going through this whole like reality experience, getting a lot of followers. And
Mhm.
I was in a bubble. Like I was in a bubble of, I have, my core group of friends. I have all this stuff and we're like-minded. Right. And there's a lot of people out there that struggle with the basics. And it's so sad and it's so unfortunate because I know I struggled with the basics, and it took a lot of therapy and a lot of like really like looking myself in the mirror and being like, who are you? Who do
Mhm.
you want to be in this world? And like figuring out my core values and living by them. And it took me, I mean, it's been a couple years, I would say, like maybe 4 or 5 years where I've really been like, this is who I am. Take it or leave it.
Mhm.
If you want to take it, great. I'm going to be one of the most loyal, supportive friends you're ever going to have.
Mhm.
And if you don't want to see that, my intentions are pure and I'm doing the best that I can, then I'm not your people and you're not my people. And I
Right.
literally just posted on Instagram about that right before we hopped on here today to record, because I don't think people have the strength to do that. But you have to know who you are to do that.
Yep.
That's the thing. You have
If
to
you
know yes, exactly.
Yeah, and it's tough because you don't always have the support system that you want. Like I went through these changes.
So yeah, so boundaries are good. A lot of people don't know it, but how did you finally learn like what you were and weren't willing to deal with in your everyday life? Because you were, I mean, survival mode, get out, you're out. Many years later, you stop allowing your sister to bully you. Where did this strength come from? What did you learn? What changed?
So I again, there was actually a relationship that I ended prior to ending the relationship with my sister, and that was my marriage.
Mm,
And again, I had a 5-year plan to get out of it because I was in a situation where I had 3 little kids. I had a mortgage. I didn't have my college degree completed yet. And I was like, oh my gosh, where am I going? I don't have enough money. I'm a stay-at-home mom. How am I going to manage this? And so I had a 5-year plan to get out of that marriage and to be
that's so, just a 5-year plan to get out of a marriage. Was
5
it?
years. Oh my gosh. And I knew it was going to be 5 years because I had to have my newborn in kindergarten in order to be able to make ends. I knew I wasn't going to be able to afford daycare. So I knew it was going to be a 5-year plan until that little girl was in kindergarten. And that's how
Oh
I knew.
gosh.
I literally wrote down my 5-year plan. And it started with that. So
You
I
don't have to answer this if you don't want to, but was it like just not working, or was it toxic, unhealthy?
Um, it was just a little bit everything.
Okay.
We married very young. We did not have the tools at the time to deal with the adult things like mortgages, children,
Mm-hmm.
We both were having so much fun in our lives when we got married, and he didn't realize that that had to stop. So he
Yeah.
continued on acting like a 22-year-old,
Oh
whereas
my
I
gosh.
was a mom, and my instincts told me don't do that anymore. He worked his butt off. He brought money into the house. He made it so that I can stay home with my kids. God bless him.
Hmm.
And I love that about him. But he, you know that saying, work hard, play hard?
Yeah.
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 That was exactly what was going on. And he played hard, and there were not any changes that he was willing to make. And so I just couldn't, I knew it wasn't working for me. My little girls were noticing that this was going on. And I thought to myself,
Oh
oh my
man.
God, they're going to wind up with somebody who treats them just like this, as disrespectful, because this is all they know. This is what they see. It was my job to change that. It was my job to make them see that is not right and there are consequences. And
Right. Good for
so,
you.
yeah, I was just like, my job is to teach them. That's my sole purpose in life, is to teach my kids in every aspect. So,
That's so good to hear. And also just, I'm sorry that happened because that sounds just, I mean, I can't imagine staying 5 years unhappy. I mean,
oh,
I just can't. And like working towards that plan and having to do it literally on your own. But the motivation of you wanting to show your women how they should be treated, your young women how they should be treated and how they should treat people, is that's kind of an inspiring way to look at it.